So there's quite a lot of information that we can see just from our domain names. And just like other factors that influence search engine ranking, domain names can also play a part in how well your website ranks. So right now we've just got Wikipedia open here. We've got a list of top level domains. So top level domains are .com, .org, .net. So these are all top level domains. And these are some of the more common ones that you've probably heard of. And when you go down, you see that there's literally hundreds and hundreds of possible top-level domains. So each country has its own set of top-level domains. So anything at the end of the domain, so this is the top-level domain for Wikipedia, it's just .org. And all of the domains that are .org are underneath that top-level domain of .org. So we can see that every single country has its own domain extension, top-level domain extension. We can see also international country code top-level domains. So there's a whole bunch more here as well. And then we've also have these additional top-level domains such as academy, accountant. We've got just a bunch of information. So we've got some really odd ones here like beer and bar and more industry-specific ones. Bingo, and there's literally so many different types of domain names. So this is one thing that you do need to consider, because whenever you type into a search engine, predominantly you're going to see .com domains coming up, especially if you're in the US. And if you're in Canada, you'll probably see some .coms and you'll see some .cas, because this is the Canadian top level domain is .ca. So a lot of times websites will register both .com, .ca, and as well try to reserve additional top level domains as well. So think what the top level domain is for your country, and this is where your target market is located. And then that's where you get an idea of what top level domain you should be registering. And when you go to register top level domains, you've got a bunch of options here. So I'm just at domain.com and I'm going to do a search for Google, which is obviously already taken. And we'll just show you all the different top level domains that we can register. So we see that obviously google.com, all of these Googles are taken, and all of these ones have already been reserved so that they're not available. But domain.com is a really good resource if you want to find some additional top level domains, or if you want to purchase an existing domain. So there are some advantages to even purchasing existing domains. So depending on the website's, how long it's been registered, domain history, the length of the registration, all of this comes into play when your website is being judged by the search engines in terms of how it should rank and how legitimate essentially your website is. So all of this information comes into play. So things like if you go to a Whois, so I'm just at whois.icann.org, and I'm going to look up Google again. So we've got all of this information on every single domain, and of course this would be available to the search engines as well in order to feed into their algorithm. So looking at if you've got a domain, if it's a private registration, depending on that, who the owner is, if the owner has a bunch of different domains, so if they've got thousands of domains, or if they're someone that's known to Google as creating less than desirable domains, doing spam. So all of this comes into play, and all of this can be brought together. So if they can identify the owner, or if there's private or public Whois, sometimes this comes into play as well, because there's a question about why is it private if it's a private registration and the Whois. So there's quite a bit to consider, and we can see that Google doesn't have private. They've got all of their information, and as well all of this information helps play into just overall perception of how legitimate the domain is. So always keep that in mind. Keep in mind as well the wording that you're using in your domain. So if you're using something like makelook.org or myhunt.org or googlegold.org, all of the wording in the domain is important. The length of the registration, how long that domain, when it was created, when it was last updated, how long the person's owned the domain. So all of that domain history, when it's changed names, the who is and public who is, private who is, the owner and the owner's reputation, as well as what top level domain extension you're using.